Card declined again. Ma'am, do you have another card? The coffee shop cashier repeated with growing impatience, ignoring the line forming behind Vanessa Carter. She felt the heat rise in her neck. It wasn't embarrassment, it was controlled anger. At 35, Vanessa had learned that moments like this revealed more about others than about herself. Her corporate card had been canceled exactly 6 months ago, obviously, but she kept her personal accounts strictly organized. "Try this one," she said calmly, handing over another card. Also declined. The young man snorted, annoyed. That's when a familiar voice cut through the air behind her like a knife. "Hey, cashier, just put her coffee on my tab." Vanessa turned slowly. Edward Whitman, perfectly parted gray hair, a navy suit costing more than some people's 3-month salary, and that condescending smile she knew so well. The same man who, 6 months ago, had said in front of the entire board, "Vanessa, sweetheart, you know we love your unique perspective here, but maybe it's time for you to seek opportunities that better align with your cultural background." The same Edward who had invented a fake restructuring to fire her from Whitman Holdings, the company she had helped double in size in 4 years as director of strategy. "No, thank you," Vanessa replied, her voice polite but icy. "Oh, come on, it's just coffee." Edward laughed, holding his Apple Watch to the payment reader. $5.80 won't break me." The payment was approved instantly. Vanessa accepted the coffee with a whispered, "Thank you," watching Edward walk away towards the executive tables without looking back. To him, she was just another person in need of charity. A story to tell at dinner about how generous he'd been that morning. He had no idea who she really was, or rather, who she was becoming. As she walked toward the exit, Vanessa felt the weight of the envelope in her purse. Investor signatures, contracts that would change everything. 6 months of meticulous planning, secret meetings, building something Edward could never imagine. She stopped at the door and looked back one last time. Edward sat alone, typing furiously on his phone, oblivious to the hurricane about to hit his life. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who should have known your worth, you know the best revenge isn't served hot. It's served cold, calculated, and at the perfect moment. Subscribe to the channel to find out how a simple $5 coffee would become the catalyst for the most spectacular downfall the corporate world has ever witnessed. 6 months earlier, Vanessa had walked into that same Whitman Holdings boardroom carrying a proposal that would save the company from bankruptcy. 42 slides of pure strategic genius, the result of sleepless nights analyzing data no one else could decipher. "Gentlemen," she said, adjusting her glasses as she connected her laptop, "our numbers show we can not only survive this crisis, but double our profit margin in 18 months. The silence was palpable. Edward sat at the head of the table playing with his $15,000 Mont Blanc pen inherited from his father. Next to him, 5 other white executives in identical suits, all heirs to family fortunes. "Interesting perspective, Vanessa," Edward said without looking at the screen. "But don't you think you're overestimating our ability to change? This company has traditions going back 4 generations. Traditions. The word he always used when he meant, "We don't want people like you making decisions here." Vanessa ignored the veiled insult and continued. For 2 hours, she presented irrefutable data, market analyses, and strategies that would revolutionize not only Whitman Holdings, but the entire industry. At the end, the applause was polite, lukewarm. "Thank you, Vanessa. We'll consider your suggestions," Edward lied with that patronizing smile. 3 weeks later, Whitman Holdings announced a revolutionary expansion strategy. Word for word, Vanessa's proposal, presented by Edward as his own. Profits tripled in 6 months. Vanessa didn't even get a thank you. When she dared question it, Edward called her into his office. "Look, Vanessa, you're very intense," he said, leaning back in his Italian leather chair. maybe it's time for you to find something more suited to your profile. I'm sure there are nonprofits that would love someone with your dedication." As if she were a well-intentioned volunteer rather than the most brilliant strategic mind the company ever had. Now walking through the streets of Chicago with the coffee Edward had generously paid for, Vanessa smiled for the first time in months. Not a smile of gratitude, but of anticipation. The envelope in her purse contained the birth certificate of Nova Strategies, a strategic consulting firm she had built in absolute secrecy. 15 former Whitman employees had already signed contracts with her. Not just employees, the best talent Edward had fired or ignored for being different. Brilliant Black and Latino professionals he saw as out of step with company culture. Each harbored resentment. Each had inside information. Each was hungry for justice. And best of all, Edward had no idea. Her phone vibrated. A message from Brandon Lee, Whitman's former IT director, whom Edward had fired for cultural fit issues. Translation: being a first-generation Asian American with too many foreign ideas. Meeting confirmed for tomorrow. I brought a special gift, all the backups of Whitman's internal emails from the last 5 years, including conversations Edward thought he'd deleted. Vanessa closed her eyes and breathed deeply. Edward Whitman had made the classic mistake of powerful men, completely underestimating the woman he humiliated. 24 hours later. Vanessa sat in the boardroom of Nova Strategies, surrounded by 15 professionals representing the best underrated talent in America. Brandon connected his laptop to the projector, smiling. "Guys, you're going to love this." The screen lit up with a cascade of Whitman's internal emails, including private conversations about employee cultural fit. "This one's my favorite," Brandon said, clicking on a 2-year-old message. "We need a subtle way to clean house. Too much diversity is affecting our traditional dynamic, especially that Vanessa, too assertive for a woman in her position." A murmur of outrage rippled through the room. "There's more," Brandon continued, opening another file. "Her strategy is brilliant, but we can't let someone, let's say, non-traditional, take credit for saving the company. I'll present it as my own." Vanessa remained calm, her eyes blazing with intensity. "This is just the appetizer," she said. "Brandon, show them what we found about government contracts." The next revelation was devastating. Edward had lied systematically on federal bids, inflating diversity numbers by using contract workers to mask that 92% of leadership were privileged white men. "Federal fraud," whispered David Park, former legal counsel. "That could mean jail time." "It can," Vanessa replied, her smile icy. "But first, let's play a little game." She stood looking down at Michigan Avenue through the window. "Do you know Edward's dumbest mistake yesterday? He paid for my 5.80 coffee." The room laughed softly. "A man who stole my ideas and fired me thought he was generous paying for my drink. That arrogance," Patricia Morales said, shaking her head, "is what will destroy him." "Exactly." Vanessa returned to the table and opened a folder. "Because while he thinks he's in control, we're here planning how to dismantle his life, piece by piece." She distributed contracts. "Nova Strategies officially exists as of today. Our first client, Whitman Holdings." "What do you mean?" Brandon asked. "I got an email this morning." Vanessa projected it. "Mr. Whitman would like to know if you know of any discreet and competent consulting firms. He mentioned an inspiring conversation yesterday with a young female entrepreneur." "He has no idea who I am," Vanessa continued. "To him, I'm just a struggling Black person he helped out of pity. Now he wants to hire my company to fix the problems he created." "That's genius," David said. "He's literally going to pay you to destroy him." The next day, 3:00 p.m. sharp. Vanessa entered Whitman's boardroom carrying a leather briefcase and a smile that revealed nothing of the hurricane to come. Edward stood at the head of the table beaming. "Everyone, This is Vanessa Carter, CEO of Nova Strategies, here to help us revolutionize operations. Vanessa nodded politely. Thank you, Edward. It's a pleasure to be here, to solve Whitman Holdings' problems. Edward chuckled. Well, maybe optimize is a better word. No, Edward, solve problems. She clicked on her first slide. After analyzing your internal data, I can say with absolute certainty this company is less than 6 months away from total bankruptcy. Edward's smile froze. The executives shifted uncomfortably. She proceeded, calm and professional, presenting recordings, discriminatory emails, and proof of stolen ideas, including her strategic plan that had earned Edward a $5 million bonus. Finally, she looked directly at him. Who are you?" he whispered, shaking. Vanessa smiled. "I am Vanessa Carter, former director of strategy here, the same person you fired for being too assertive, the same person you bought coffee for yesterday thinking you were being generous." The silence was deafening. She clicked on the final slide, an impressive list of clients and contracts now belonging to Nova Strategies and its partner firms. $120 million annually, triple Whitman's revenue. "What does this mean for Whitman's future?" a journalist asked. Vanessa looked at Edward, who was pale and shaking. "It means arrogance has a price, and that price is total irrelevance." She closed her laptop. "Thank you for your time. Oh, and Edward, thanks for the coffee yesterday. It was the most expensive 5 or 80 sellers of your life." 18 months later, Vanessa sat in her penthouse office overlooking Chicago. Nova Strategies had become the most respected consulting firm on the East Coast, with $230 million in annual revenue. "Ms. Carter, Forbes is here for your cover interview," her assistant announced. She smiled. The headline would read, "How an Unfair Firing Created a $200 million Empire." Meanwhile, across town, Edward Whitman sat in a one-bedroom apartment, typing his resume on a used laptop. His company bankrupt, his mansion gone, his family gone, his children embarrassed by scandal. His LinkedIn read, 49 years old, former CEO of a bankrupt company, seeking entry-level opportunities. During her Forbes interview, Vanessa was asked when she decided to destroy Edward. "It wasn't when he fired me unfairly," she said calmly. "It wasn't even when I found out he stole my strategy. It was when he paid for my coffee, thinking he was doing charity for someone in need." 3 weeks later, Forbes hit the stands. The $5 revenge that cost an empire. Vanessa looked out over the city, thinking of all the talented people underestimated and discarded like her, now millionaires themselves. The real revenge was never destroying Edward. It was building something he could never imagine. Because while some pay for coffee out of pity, others build empires out of justice.